Welcome back. You're still watching Business Morning on Channels Television. It's broadcasting live from Lagos. Our conversation in the last couple of minutes has been on the hospitality sector, looking at tourism as a potential revenue earner, or already we know it's a potential revenue earner, but how much of it can it contribute to the nation's growth? And I'm on the program with Dr. Munzali Dantata. He's the Director General, National Institute for Hospitality and Tourism. He's joining us live from our Abuja studios. And of course, the President, La Campagne Tropicana Beach Resort, Olawanle Akimboye, and he says I should call him Wanle. So Wanle Akimboye is the President, La Campagne Tropicana Beach Resort. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for sticking around for the last lap of the program. Now, just before we went on that break, Wanle, you were talking about the fact that most of these business tourists, when they do come in, they end up being locked up in their rooms instead of going out to catch the sights and all the rest. We know that there are security issues, and which is why most of them stay cooped up in their room and just prefer to amuse themselves with things around them. But we know that Nigeria isn't the only African country with challenges. So what can be done to assure such tourists who are coming in that our situation is not peculiar to us alone? So as an industry player, if your responsibility is so huge, your marketing skills have to come out more than every other person's own, you know, to try to assure these tourists that, look, you're safe. We have these challenges, yes, but I can assure you that it doesn't spread, so to speak. So, you know, just like map out where they can visit and where they can't visit. So what can industry players actually be doing as regards all of this?
Well, I think security, to a large extent, is the responsibility of government. And of course, you know that tourism security is soft security. You don't carry guns around your institution. You must make people feel extremely comfortable when they come around your different destinations that you create. Now, what we must do as a people, and I think that Lagos in particular, or most parts of Nigeria, is about one of the safest places in the world. It's one of the places that you can go to and really feel extremely comfortable if we decide on what we are doing. I think the major problem is that when people call you thieves and you don't come out to tell them you are not, and that is government's responsibility to go out to the world to tell them, listen, we are not thieves.
But you see, the government is made up of people, and yes. So before the government begins to do that, what is our own responsibility as a people? Is it not our responsibility as a people to begin to project a positive image of what we have back home?
Absolutely. You need to sell yourself. You're the only one that you must project yourself. You must let people know who you are. We're trying to do that from the private sector, but it's a combination of efforts. It requires the effort of government, and it requires the effort of the private sector. As Munsali indicated correctly earlier, it's a responsibility of all. I don't think Nigeria is as dangerous as South Africa, for example, and I don't think it's as dangerous as New York City. I mentioned to you earlier that people go to Israel on a regular basis in the middle of bombings. No one is really worried about the fight going on. They've created a tourism area. We need to create tourism sectors, tourism areas that will be well protected. If you remember, in the times of the Egyptian Arab Spring, they took the deposed president of Egypt, to a tourist destination because that whole area was protected. And they dropped just about 25% of their tourism receipts during that period, because people know that this area is safe.
All right, so we know that most of the tourist sites are beginning to die off because we do not have so much tourists visiting. And because of this, the management who run such sites are looking for other ways to earn their money. So some of them have left the industry and it's crumbling around our ears. Now, are there any plans, or do industry players have any plans to, for instance, pick a particular one, focus on stabilizing it, and move on to another one?
Well, it's all still in the hands of government for now. We need to, like I said earlier, it's got to be shifted to the private sector. until you give it to the private sector, you would not, just the way you're privatizing, the way you privatized communications, you privatize now power. Tourism should have been done a long time ago. Because until you do that, you really will not have any form of progress in that sector. We've got to privatize it, and once it's privatized, you find out that government will make a lot more money from that, because practitioners, tested practitioners, will come in and run it.
All right, Dr. Dantata, I'm coming to you now. Thank you so much for staying with us. Let's look at, you know, I just asked Wanle to talk about the fact that what industry players are actually doing as regards focusing on a particular tourist site and building it up to at least an appreciable standard, and then moving on to another one and doing the same thing. Is there anything that the National Institute for Hospitality and Tourism is doing as regards this, you know, focusing on a particular tourist sites and building them up to appreciable standards, and then moving on to another project and like that?
Can you hear me? Okay, because the microphone has a slight problem. But what I would like to say is that our institute is concerned with manpower and not the site. The sites, it's more the mandate of the sister organization NTDC. But having said that, even the NTDC is not supposed to develop the sites. The sites are supposed to be developed by the owners, be they private sector like my brother Wale Akimoboe, or with his La Campagne Tropicana, or maybe the Obudu, which is owned by Cross River. So you see, the federal government, itself, it has very few sites, but it does lend support to these tourism locations in terms of publicity, marketing, especially in the international market. I told you we just returned from London, where we attended the World Travel Market last week, and sometimes it does also come in with assistance by possibly, let's say, building a road to a site, or ensuring electricity comes to that site, and other amenities like water and communication. But that was the actual development of the site.
Okay, so Dr. Dantata, can you tell us about the work that the Institute is currently doing in the Federal Capital Territory?
The local government, the state government, private company, not the federal government. So that must be made very clear. And I'd like to come in, when you're talking about business tourism, you should not take it as business tourism can be divided into two. That is leisure and business. The leisure tourism is your everyday tourism that everybody thinks about, which is about sightseeing, which is about enjoying. But every other tourism activity that is not leisure is termed as business, whether it's religious tourism, educational tourism, shopping tourism, whatever you have. So we, have to define the type of tourism we want, to promote in Nigeria. And I think the federal government made a statement more than 10 years ago when it created the Ministry of Culture and Tourism, which means culture is our international tourism product. It's our best foot that we're putting forward in the international market. But that is not at the expense of the other products which are covered by the Tourism Master Plan, which analyzes the potential products in Nigeria, those existing and those that are not. And I'd like to say here that tourism is one industry that is multifaceted. Sometimes you do not appreciate the impact, but it is making an impact. Nigerian tourism today is making an impact on the economy, but this impact may not be realized. I'll give you an example with the communication. If you are having 1 million phone users in Lagos who are buying scratch cards, and then 1 million tourists come into Lagos, that doubles it to 2 million. So because the other 1 million who are the tourists, the visitors, will also be buying, they'll be buying scratch cards to call home, whether Nigeria they are calling Abuja or Sokoto where they came from, or they are calling London or New York. So those in the communication industry, the MTNs, Airtel, they should be interested in what we're doing, because when we bring a tourist to a site, it increases consumption. Even Coca-Cola, they will sell more bottles. And not to talk of also the restaurants and all other facilities. So you should not think of tourism only in terms of the hotel rooms. or the airline seats, but even manufacturers, benefit, because as I said, the tourists that come in, if you take a place like Dubai, who they just, a city of less than 1 million people receiving over 20 million, visitors in a year. So the consumption of the tourists is even more than the local people. So it is that context you should look at tourism. So today, I will not say tourism is not making impact on Nigerian, economy, but it could be better. And it's because of this misunderstanding of tourism that even at the international level, because we are not, it's not only in Nigeria, even in advanced countries, that the World Tourism Organization came up with a mechanism of measuring the economic impact of tourism on national economies. They came up with what they call the tourism satellite account, so that governments worldwide could appreciate. Because when they appreciate, then they will allocate more resources to tourism. That's just what I'd like to add there.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Dantata. We'll still come back to you. You actually raised an issue which I am going to take Wanle up on right now. That's the cost of hotels. Now, Wanle, we know that the cost of hotels has been cited as a major issue in the hospitality sector and in the promotion of tourism. Why do we have so much? Because everybody wants to, go out and have fun and see the sights, but then you have to pay so much.
I think it's just basically because of lack of infrastructure, because of the money you pay on diesel, the cost of diesel, the cost of road, you have to, basically most hotels are like a government on their own.
Okay, so why don't you come up with plans that are easier for people for tourists who want to stay in your facilities? Why don't you come up with a plan that will be easier for them to manage?
How do you mean a plan?
In terms of cost, because it's so expensive, which is the reason why they rather not stay in the hotels. And since they don't stay in the hotels are just there, the rooms are just there, and it's running down because there's nobody living in it.
We agree with you totally, but you see, it's just the minimum cost required to keep a hotel running, even if it's just one person or two people. And I agree with you totally, but that is probably what we've had to go through. You have to first worry about you have to be able to run facilities first before you run your business. You have to worry about water, worry about electricity, costs that your associates abroad don't worry about, they don't even think about it. And then again, you find out that a lot of the hotels abroad, they're operating with a lot of residual money. The interest on the money, they have long-term funds that they get from their institutions.
No, so we don't get that here.
We don't have that here. Nigerian banks have short-term funds, quote and unquote, that's what they claim. So they give you a loan at over 25%, and they give you 6 months, 1 year. In 2 years, if you haven't paid, you are chatting with the EFCC. So you find that cost of money, cost of infrastructure, and then you've got to worry about all of these before you begin to run your business. So there's got to be a subvention, there's got to be a support.
Well, have you ever thought of listing on the Nigerian Stock Exchange? Because I don't think Pine Tropicana is listed.
We will.
Because if you are listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, it's easy for you to get these funds at medium to long-term rates, and it's less pressure on you, and so you get to do everything that you need to do and make everybody happy. So the management is happy, the tourists are happy, and the public too is happy.
Well, you've got to get your business to a particular level. Before you go to this.
So what level are we talking about now?
You have to get it to a particular level. And I think we're at that point now. We're looking at it. Because it's actually, La Campagne is a franchise brand, just like the Protea and the rest of it. Our concept is a cultural African presentation, presenting African culture in a highly cosmopolitan manner. And it took time to develop that brand. You've got to develop the product first.
Well, Wanle, I'd like to put it to you that there are actually different platforms that you can tap into on the Nigerian Stock Exchange and grow your business very well. I'm sure somebody will be talking to you about it. But just just before we round up on the program, Dr. Dantata, thank you so much for staying with us. And just on your closing words, we know that preparations for the centenary celebrations are in top gear. Another avenue we could say, to showcase Nigeria's rich heritage. But is the industry ready? Is the National Institute for Hospitality and Tourism ready for the influx of investors that we're going to be getting, the potential investors that we're going to be getting when the celebrations actually kick off?
I'm glad that you came to the centenary, because it is one occasion which Nigeria could launch itself in the international scene. We have seen celebrations like last year, the Olympics, when it was even the Queen, not the whole Great Britain, that was celebrating. She was celebrating her, I believe, her 60th anniversary. So in the case of the Institute, we are, together with the Ministry of Agriculture and also our parent ministry, the Ministry of Culture, having an exhibition on the 100 years of Nigerian food, you know, from the farm to the table, and which by the time we unfold the plans, I'm sure we'll have a lot of hotels and farmers and food producing companies coming. So having said that, I think the tourism industry should really take a lead, you know, just like has happened in across the world, where countries are celebrating golden jubilees, silver jubilees, and also centenaries. So we in the tourism sector here in Nigeria are already, you know, gearing up, and in our own cases, our mandate has to do with hospitality, which includes the food industry. Our contribution will be more in that respect.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Dantata. That's the much we can take. It's a very interesting conversation, and we're hoping that we can also have you on the program again to talk about it. But do have a profitable trading day, like I'd always say.
You're welcome.
Well, that's Dr. Munzali Dantata, the Director General, National Institute for Hospitality and Tourism, speaking to us live from our Abuja studio. And Wanle, just before we go, I just want a yes or no answer. The tourism industry, hospitality sector, can we achieve the much needed desirable level which we want, which is what, 98% growth or even 100% growth?
What time span?
Well, let's look at it in the medium to long term.
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much. I've been speaking with the President, Lacampine Tropicana Beach Resort, Wanle Akimboboye, and we've been looking at the hospitality sector. But that's the program for today. Don't forget, you can send your questions and comments to any of the addresses showing on your screen. I'm Harriet Agbeni. Have a profitable trading day.